being present when somebody passes really brings this whole emotional field of people grieving, people being in shock, depending on how or what it is happening when a person is leaving the body. And I just had my own experience yesterday where I was part of somebody leaving their body, and while they were in cardiac arrest and the paramedics were trying to help him, there were many people already in distress around them, and I had a couple of responses. And the initial response was to retreat because it was quite overwhelming, because so much energy. And then my second immediate response after I took some distance, after having observed it, was to ground the space, ground the whole room, ground myself. And so I did. And then I came closer and I was sitting and I sat down in meditative position, and I opened my hands and I asked to be available to whatever was needed in that moment of time, because we might get clouded in wanting to feel like, oh, need to pray for him and that he will make it, but we don't know their journey. We don't know what they had intended or what they would want. So I just became available for the soul. And so I live in Denmark and I don't speak Danish so well, so I didn't really understand what was happening, but the mood around the paramedics was like they were still trying to save him. And while I was sitting in this meditation and being available and trying to, keep finding my center and grounding, because people are in distress, people are shocked, at some point I felt that he left the body and that he would not come back anymore. And that was such a weird sensation because I had not experienced that before. And also, there's of course this, you don't want to give up on a person, but I felt it. Yeah, so the topic of grief, why do we grieve? I think we can grieve for the regrets that we think, oh, this person is so young, they would have had so much more in life to experience. The regrets of your relationship together. I wish we had to been able to spend more time or do this thing or have this talk. Or sadness for their descendants, their loved ones, their close ones. Yeah, sadness for them, because they would have this constant reminder of that their loved one isn't there anymore. And then there is the grievance of this kind of reflection and mirroring of that death is real, that people die, and you're a person, so you will die. This really memento mori, carpe diem, because you will die, seize the day because you will die, you're immortal. Mortal. You're mortal, not immortal. So yeah, I was being with that sadness and that grief last night, and seeing and hearing the instructions from the paramedics and the doctor on how to handle grief. So the instructions were, first of all, I really appreciate that they brought us into a room of the people that were present there and that had known it or had been training with this man. And then we were kind of informed about what happened, that there was no ill intent, and that is, yeah. And then also about how to go about the grief, how to go about it. And two things stood out is that they said, first of all, the acknowledgement that all the responses are normal. Some people are outwardly expressing and you can see them cry. Other people are very inwardly expressing, or they might even be in shock. And all of that is super normal. And then they kind of informed us about what to do the evening or the next day. And the advice very much was about to, go about your normal day. And to, when, the tasks that you would want to do are not going so well, inform other people about it. And then when somebody asks you, oh, you seem not so chirpy, or it did look like you cried, what's up? And to tell them about it, so not hide it. However, this kind of description feels really weird for me because, I now took the morning to do something different than work because I definitely want to process it more. And now talking about it, and I talked with a friend last night, and I slept at a friend's place just to not be alone and be ruminating, right? And, have some support and more love, and to be able to give it a space. But yeah, to be told to do your normal thing, and when somebody asks, tell them, talk about it. So why are we bad at welcoming grief into our lives? How is it that in our Western society there is not the space to take to actually grieve? Yes, you may go to a funeral, there's time off for that, but we need time to grieve. We need time to process, because now otherwise it becomes a trauma. Because it's just too much to process, from one moment to the next. You're talking with this person, and then they're on the ground, and then they died. Yeah, I would say they did offer a lot of help, and they talked about some numbers that we could call if we couldn't sleep in the middle of the night, and they're going to offer psychiatry support or something like that if you want to talk. And that is such from the goodness of their hearts. I'm certain of it. I really felt it. And also as a society, we need tools. I need tools. How can I go up to this stranger or who we don't have a really good relationship with, but I know because we were in this together, have this experience? How can I show up there for them? How can I show up for myself? How do you navigate in grief and traumatic grief and loss? Because we tend to be full on in the picture and, oh, my condolences, so sorry, that must have been traumatic, and have a lot of empathy, or feel discomfort and feel very uncomfortable with being with this other person who has all these big emotions, and then you're trying to be there for them, but you don't really know how. And then when time passes, we kind of, as one should, continue with life. And then the person grieving or in loss might really feel lonely or, misunderstood, or that they are alone in their pain and in their loss, and that they will not be understood. And everywhere they go, they feel a little bit like piece of them is not with them because they've lost that in that instance. Grief is a true process, and everybody goes through it differently. And I think to have some words on how to go about it and what we might ask each other. And I told the people, because I felt it was important for me to speak up, I was like, thank you so much for offering help. And also, please know that when you ask people to get out of their way and ask for the help you offered, that is a lot. That might be even too much. So perhaps we can become better at checking in, and also, breaking through this taboo of meeting the discomfort and being done in it together, and be like, hey, I know you went through this situation, through this loss. Would you want to talk about it, or can I offer my support in any other way? I want you to know that I'm here, and even if now you don't want to talk, I can offer support in cooking for you. I can offer support in now giving you a hug. I can offer support in being here in silence. I can offer a listening ear. Maybe to be more tangible. Because then maybe from a resonance, a person can be like, yes, you know what? Can you just sit with me? Yeah, how might we get better at processing grief together? Because I think we're so afraid that we get stopped in our tracks when we try to support another person, and then we become sad. But we don't have to become sad, because it's their emotion. So we can leave that emotion with that other person, but we might support, we might give them the space to express that emotion, because, you know, when we're expected to be back in normal society again and to go to work and do the normal thing, but then just on a lower pace, only the person themselves knows that they're ready. But to have a checking in person, I think that might be a huge consolence. Yeah, so how might we handle grief with grace?